where I come from, I know I've met people here, like Dean and Kelly and Dave, when I was part of Washington State Democrats. So I was chair of Washington County Democratic Central Committee from 2005 to about 2009. Left the party in 2009. I was political independent ever since. And so just the way the dynamics of politics have really changed since then. And things have really moved to the fringes. And you see what's going on in Washington State with Democrats. It's really gone to the left, with like Democratic Socialists of America, working family parties, right? And so they've moved into the Democratic Party, Republican Party, MAGA, Donald Trump, this like populism stuff. So there's people like Democrats and Republicans like, what happened to our parties? So they've kind of moved to the fringes. So we're trying to be the fun, radical center, and so why do we want to do that? Yeah, we qualified it. So one thing that we had to do was qualify as a recognized party in our state, and the period to qualify is only once every 4 years, where you have 3 months to jump through these hoops with the state. It's like, and so the next time the opportunity to qualify as a party in our state is in 2028. So if you want to start a party in our state, it's kind of like cicadas hatching. It's just kind of, you gotta wait until there's this time. So there's Cascade Party. So why is that important? It's not really about ballot access in our state. It's more about having access to the same fundraising rules as Republicans and Democrats have. Rules that, by the way, they made to benefit themselves, right? So we recognize that with Cascade Party. And we took advantage, we see the value of that. And so we did some work in 2025. We recognized some candidates and almost won state legislature in Tacoma, Mayor Tacoma, but this was not a good year for centrism in Washington State. So we're gonna hit it again in 2026. And it was interesting that you saw how the mayor-elect of New York, Mom Donnie, met with Trump yesterday. And that was really interesting. And so there's all these like takes on it. The left is saying, he owned Trump. And the right is saying, he owned Mom Donnie, you know. And, but what does that really mean? I thought it was cool that finally they came together and that maybe they can find some common ground, okay? Because what happened, especially in Washington State, it's like Washington was an outlier, was different from most of the 49 states, where on November of 2024, our state went more left, and we really went against Trump. And so then there were a lot of people who were really upset that Trump got reelected. And then, so there was mourning, there was grief. There were the stages of, what are the stages of grief? There's shock, there's anger, there's denial, right? But then there's finally acceptance, right? You finally accepted what happened. So in the meantime, that was all going on in Washington State, and we had a legislative session, and the legislature passed like $9 billion in new taxes. And we want to know with Cascade Party, like what are some measurable results with that? But back to my story. So this legislature, it seems like a lot of people weren't really paying attention of what was going on in Olympia. It was just like the stages of grief with Trump. And so maybe with Mom Donnie meeting Trump, that there's that like acceptance stage, right? Because we're gonna more than likely have Trump until January 20, 2029. There's a lot of life to live, right? I just turned 60. You start thinking about your life and making plans. It's just like, do I want that guy to live rent-free, Donald Trump in my head? I never watched his reality shows. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Or, you know what I mean? Somebody gifted Darby and I Trump champagne years ago. But it was good. It was good, yeah. And it was good stuff. So, so people start paying attention to Olympia and the legislative session. It's just like, okay, what are we going to get? We're paying all these taxes, and you know, this last election was. If you look at Trump and Mom Donnie or Katie Wilson, it's like, you know, he's a fascist, he's a socialist, and there's like all these labels they're throwing on people. But maybe we can just kind of get past that and just like see, you know, and see like what's. Oh, thank you for that applause. And like, gee, I always thought I was kind of a socialist, really. I mean, socialist and ethic. Like, I support public utility districts, public timber, public schools, emergency medical services, public roads. You know where I'm going with this stuff. That's why I was in the Democrats. And so all of a sudden, people take this mantle of socialism, which is like, well, we have that in Washington State, but then we also have like opportunity, right? Like, I had a lot of opportunities growing up, and I had a huge opportunities that I really appreciated and grateful for. So people who run businesses, like, you know, there's a lot of pressure on small businesses, independent businesses. And so it's just kind of like, that's the magic of America, is that where's the sweet spot between socialism and capitalism? It's an uneasy marriage. It's a tension. I have a great marriage, by the way. But with that, that's my wife, Devin, right there. Finally, I acknowledge you, lovely bride. She made my shirt, thank you, and she did my hat. And she made her own skirt. And so that's like the sweet spot. And then finding candidates for 2026. And to really, a lot of these legislative races, they're uncontested or they're lopsided. And you have these incumbents that they don't even really run for office, right? Especially like suburban King County. And so just like give voters a choice and just say, hey, here are these issues. What do you think of these issues? And try to shake things up. So that's like the plan. Where do I go with this before we gotta get to the music? And, do I still have your attention? Yeah. Wow. Sing the rest. What's that? Sing the rest. Did I sing the rest?
If you notice, you
la 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 la. That's anyway, there's so many issues. So we started the Cascade Party, and the campaign finance rules, like, you could give $1,400 as an individual campaign contribution limit. You get to like a campaign, or you could give unlimited money to a PAC, a political action committee, and those are really exclusive, right? Hi, Andrea.
Hi.
Andrea Suarez, we heard Scout. But you can't coordinate with the campaign with a PAC. But with the party, we can coordinate with campaigns. We can raise money, we can give money to campaigns, we can promote the party, and there's these rules that we have access to. But since we are a party, we have the obligation to be an inclusive membership group. We're not an exclusive PAC. And so one of the ways we're breaking ground politically is like we have our own social media. Some of you might be on it. It's called HumHub. It looks like Facebook, it acts like Facebook, but we control it 100%. We found this open source app that we put on our own server. And that's how we, if you join the user agreement, you agree to that, then it lets you into the party, and you're part of you have all the privileges of a party. We don't have to call, if there's any issues with it, we don't have to call Palo Alto, California to sort it out. We're completely 100%. So as far as I'm aware, we're the only political party in the world that's doing this, that has a private social media. We're on Facebook, by the way, X and all that stuff. But the way that we form our party And so that's important to have that inclusive. And what does the party do? The party is a voice for a group of people. What are our needs? What are our values? And our candidates, we're going to recruit candidates. Those are our ambassadors to the voters of those needs and values, because that's what parties do. They package issues for voters. It's like, this is the donkey, this is what they believe, this is the Republicans, this is what they believe. They're MAGA now. Maybe the donkey is like Lenin or whatever. Not that Lenin, no. And then there's the owl. So we if we need to package our issues, our needs and values, and so a voter just recognizes that and say, yeah, I could go for that, right? Because that's what freedom is. We have the freedom to choose. So we're going to have our state convention in Centralia, which is relatively close, on January 24th. So we're going to reorganize for 2026 in person, and we're going to elect officers. We're going to do our 2026 platform, and we're going to revisit our bylaws. We're going to pass some resolutions. So now's the time to get to work. I was just talking to Dean and Devin about social media. It's like, maybe do some less doom scrolling and go on the hub and help shape a resolution or help shape this plank on the our platform. So you're actually getting a value for your time online. You're actually accomplishing something instead of being under the illusion that you're being political because you're sharing some stupid meme. Like, do you ever see like the stuff I see on Facebook is just like, wow, is Donald Trump really worse than Hitler? You know? Maybe I shouldn't bring him up. I don't know. Yeah. Is that debatable?
He must not be named.
Huh? He cannot be named. All right, I won't bring him up anymore. Well, what does that make Mom Donnie then? Right? He was in the Reichstag, right? I don't know. Remember that stuff? Anyway, so that's the invitation, is to like join the Hub and join the party, and then express where you want to see our state go, where you want to see your city go, where you want to see your community go. And it's that vision of that, like, no, it's not like all in for like socialism, quote unquote, all in for like MAGA or like libertarianism or whatever. So it's just we can't do it by ourselves. So that's why there's an invitation. And I'm going to be running for the at-large position, so I'll use this privilege of being the chair of this time. I'd say, if you're on the Hub, vote for me for one of the at-large positions, and then there's all the board is up for election. So that's the promise of Cascade Party. And finally, the pitch. Let's do the pitch. And there's a QR code there, and it'll take you to our website. And there you will find another QR code. We have a Venmo. And we have PayPal, so you can make a contribution to the party. So, and let me know if you really want to help out. let me know, and then we can do that kind of stuff. So, and just to be like interactive, we got till like 5. The music starts at 5 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions or anything?
Everybody talks about the problems, we all see it, we know what's going on. The lost equation and things that are happening now are kids, young people. On the one side, guess what they're being taught in their home. On the other, guess what they're being taught in their home. I'd like to see some party, some elected folks start thinking about the next couple of generations coming up. The young ones that have gone through COVID, the isolation, depression. I spent the better part of my adulthood working with kids, and of course, going to special advocate or other things. And I got to tell you, what I'm seeing in our young people, 18 and under, even as young as 8 and 9 years old, is a total awareness of what's going on in are fist fight amongst us so-called adults.
Jordan, how about?
They have.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to sort of make a pitch from the board is, one of the reasons we started this party is because people felt like they didn't have the support of a political party if they wanted to run for office.
Really?
If they didn't buy in to a Republican or a Democratic platform, they wanted to be that third platform of support for people that want to run for office. So there are a lot of offices in our state that are uncontested. The most important offices are usually your county and your city offices. And if anyone's considering running, please get a hold of us, and we'll see what we can do to provide the support that you would get perhaps from a Democratic or Republican Party if you were selected as their favorite candidate.
Also, we have the summit, which is our version of the paper with op-eds from our members. Marjorie here has written, Krist has written, Megan has written, I think Devin has written, I've written, Kelly's written. So we have just interesting perspectives that you can grab there. And then we also have our platform here, so you can kind of see where we're at right at this moment. Then obviously we'll probably change a bit in 2026. And all the QRs are right there as well.
Yeah, the summit is like our party press, and we do opinions and news on issues, and some issues that are not getting covered in the media.
This is all my first introduction to this whole Cascade Party, which I think is a great platform and great idea, and I don't know how far level-wise, state, national. I think the worry would be is dividing those, Democratic Party in the future. Like, how would that work? Like, if you're dividing Democratic voters?
I think what's happened, okay, so if we're not dividing folks, we're welcoming folks in. So we had, in the 33rd legislative district in around SeaTac Airport, the mayor of Burien, he ran for this special election this year, Kevin Schilling. And so he, on the city council, pushed for these issues, this so-called camping ban, which deals with the homelessness and drug addiction crisis. And then the King County Sheriff wasn't enforcing Burien's rule because Burien doesn't have police. They contract with the King County Sheriff. And this made Kevin persona non grata with the local Democratic group because when he announced his intention to run for the State House, he went to their group meeting, 33rd ID Democrats, and he was given the proverbial cold shoulder. So he came to Cascade, and we're a recognized minor party, like I mentioned earlier. If you want to start a party, you can until 2028. So we're like, yeah, Kevin, these are the values that, Kevin is he voted for Harris. His worldview is he's a moderate, and he just has a different approach. What's conventional, especially in King County, which has been a disaster in King County. 5,000 drug OD deaths since 2020. There's 2 people died today in King County. And then you have those programs, that's what I was saying, measurable results. It's what are we getting for billions of dollars to spend? It was November 2nd, 2015, and Andrea knows this. That's when King County announced its crisis. What do they call it, Andrea?
Just state of emergency.
State of emergency. They declared a state of emergency with homelessness and public drug addiction. And it's really been a boondoggle. And we're just saying, hey, we should do deferred prosecutions, right? I went by a hearing here in the Cowlitz County courthouse, and there was this. I walked by a hearing room. I was going to another hearing. There's an applause in the room, and I asked somebody, what's going on here? And this guy's in there. He's got a cake. The prosecutor's there. The judge is there. This person's family is there, and he was celebrating 1 year of sobriety, right? And then they gave him a choice: if you're going to go to jail or you're going to clean up. So he took the chance. And I know I have people in my family, in bands that I've been in and know, like just like drug abuse, right? And a lot of these people who are just out on the streets, their families gave up on them. It's terrible, okay? And so this guy, and I don't know him personally, but I know this guy. I'm sure his whole life is going to meetings. That's his community. He cleaned up. He goes to meetings. He apologized. He made amends, and we took him back. Isn't that beautiful, right? Yeah, that's the vision, right? Okay, it's just like some accountability. Like I could go right here and smack somebody in the face. I should go to jail, right? It's terrible. But some people, they can get away with doing all kinds of, like, wow, you should not. There's some accountability here. You can't act like that, right? So anyway, that's a whole other story. But that's like housing first. That whole so-called harm reduction. Andrea works with that stuff in Seattle, and it's a disaster. And it's cruel. I'm just on my soapbox now, and it's a tragedy to see 2 people die today, right, Andrea? 2 or 3 people died. And what's that story behind every one of these people? Like, what happened when you were 10 years old or 12? What happened to this kid? What's their story? And look what happened, and look how they died. It's just terrible. So that's a criticism of the Democrats, the King County leadership. I'm on record. I don't agree with it. We have a better idea. We're kind of old, traditional. We're a traditional party in that way. It's like, hey, let's have. But at the same time, opportunities for recovery. Like, hey, we can spend that. That's money well spent. Is that a socialist program, having free recovery treatment for people? They call, hey, I'm Lennon or whoever. Not, being in the Beatles is so interesting. Yeah, it is. Tell you the truth, being in the Beatles is kind of. That's another story. Yeah. And but anyway, so that's my reaction to the question. Okay, are there any more questions? The music's going to start at 5 o'clock.
You mentioned an important point when you said that our approach to drugs is really bordered or surrounded by the ideal that people have. They make a lot of money off of the drug enforcement program, incarceration, coming up with all sorts of scams and schemes to bring money in. And the reality is, nobody has a magic bullet to it, but one thing we need to do is treat people medically for their drug addiction as opposed to treating them as criminals, quite frankly. I work with children that are 4th generation in a drug-related family beginning back in the 1960s with great-grandpa in some cases, grandpa, father, and now the child themselves are involved in it. But I got a question for you having to do specifically, since you're here in our county, in our district, what's the party position if it comes down to Susan Camp Perez and Joel Braun, which if anybody knows who Joel Braun is. John Braun, sorry Dave, my brain. Anyway, he's about, he outdoes MAGA, okay? I'd be surprised if he didn't have a swastika tattooed on his butt. But,
John Braun, I was told he's not a populist Republican.
Who told you that?
The scuttlebutt.
I've attended the County Republican Party meetings for many years and heard him speak many times. And Dave, you might have been there at LCC when he spoke down there. If that wasn't a populist rhetoric that he was spouting, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I don't know.
The bottom line is this: what would you folks do? What would Cascade do if it comes down to our current federal representative and this guy, Braun?
Well, that's a great example of how our party is set up, because we have a board of directors, we have our general membership, and we could nominate a Cascade Party person.
But who would you as a party support out of those 2 people? Because Those two people.
I don't have the liberty to answer that right now, because our board has not, we haven't analyzed that, we haven't met with the candidates, we haven't gone through this endorsement process or a nomination. That's like, and then, yeah, so basically I can't, not, especially at this point too, because, you know, the filing period's in May, and, there's another candidate too, there's Anthony Barron, he's an oyster farmer, he's another Republican. I don't know if you're, and he has an interesting story, and he has access to resources. So that can be a really interesting, like, intercene Republican race. So it's something to watch. And then our incumbent, MGP, she's playing the center.
And isn't she potentially being challenged from the left?
And
as
she's
well?
being challenged from the left.
Right.
So there's that active, what's that?
Brent Heinrich.
Yeah, Brent Heinrich. Yeah, so there's all that stuff going on, and so that's politics, and that's like horse race stuff, and so it would be a matter if we do endorse, if we don't nominate our own candidate and we have to endorse one of them, there's a process for that. And that's, we're a membership group, and we have an obligation to do that. I'm just the lowly chair. I mean, I'm accountable to the members of the group, right? And I want to get elected as at-large position, and so then we need to elect a chair again. So there's all those things, and that's just the inter-party stuff, and same with the election. So our process is like, who's the best person who's going to articulate our needs and values as Cascade Party, and we haven't determined that yet.
With our 1 minute, actually no, it's 5, but can I just say something quick? Sorry for being late, but I wanted to recognize Wendy Carlson, who lost her race in Olympia. I did as well, to a Democratic Socialist, and why the importance of this party means
Where's
so much
Wendy?
to us. She's there.
Hi.
So just kind of who's who in the room as we get to mix and mingle. I started We Heart Seattle, she started We Heart Olympia, which is a real direct strategy to pick up trash and influence voter education and thus voter patterns in our cities. So something y'all might think about what you can do really immediately. But I have to read you something from an officer today, as drug dealing and using is so rampant right now in Seattle and some of our parks. I have not seen it this worse since the pandemic. I asked an undercover cop what the hell they're doing, and he said this, and I think this could be a cornerstone of the resolutions for the Cascade Party. He said, Andrea, we've arrested about every person out of that crew at one time or another over the last few months. They just keep releasing them. They're smart enough to not carry too much dope on them when they sell to us, because they're users as well. So they're addicts, they're victims, we can judge them for it. Courts don't take them as serious dealers. They know how to play the system. And drug addicts will tell me, if you just would hold the dealers more accountable and have a higher penalty, that's how you get more at the root of this rampant problem. So when we think about resolutions and things we can do on the hub, I want to get a conversation going around legislation, around accountability, and demand that our electeds do something about these repeat offenders and retail theft and dealers that are wreaking havoc on our communities, as an example of something I'm very interested in. So I welcome conversations tonight around that.
Thanks, Andrea.
I just want to jump in because I actually have a history of working as a registered nurse in drug, detox and treatment centers. And one of those opportunities was in it was a long time ago, but still it was basically the people, right, most of them are there because they got sentenced to something in jail, and then they can go do their treatment, and then it'll all sort of in the wash, but they're not like locked in there. They're sort of in custody, but not. So if they want to leave treatment, I just have to make a phone call and say, hey, they left. They're free, they can be picked up. But compare that to other treatment centers I've worked at that are like big vacations, or, that cost like $20,000 a month, that families getting all the, and it's a very different, I would honestly say that when people have to be there because of the court or whatever, it creates a certain type of sobriety that the other systems don't have. Like, there's just a lot of what I consider, waste. And I mean, the first place I started working at was, very expensive, and they were on, like that A&E show, like filming, I mean, it was all, I'm just trying to
It's
say.
like
that-
reality TV.
Yes, and I'm just saying that,
People read it.
yeah, well, I mean, and I'm just saying
That's our national politics.
that,
Reality.
when you kind of have these hard things put on you, it's more sobering. One thing I like to tell a lot of addicts was the story about amethyst, the sobriety stone, that Bacchus is walking through the woods with his tigers, and he's drunk, and he doesn't care what he's doing, and he's gonna stick his tigers on the next person he sees. Next person he sees happens to be a nymph who's under the goddess's protection, and he finds that out when he immediately turns her to stone before the tigers can get on. And Bacchus, though he's totally drunk, he's scared now. He suddenly sobers up even though he's drunk, and he pours out all his wine on top of this stone, turns it purple, which is why it's called the sobriety stone. I think it's sort of the idea that you can be sober in the mind even when you have substances in your body, when something scares you enough, the fear of God.
You're saying if they are forced into it, it's not going to last like if they want to do it on their own. Is that what you're pretty much saying? Is that
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think,
but
this is like,
on their own?
yeah, I'm gonna, these are great things that we can discuss. Scott, you have something to say?
Real quickly, my son was a counselor at Greenhill. We have a real problem. Those kids are overcrowded, they're smoking fentanyl every night, can't leave there for his own safety.
We had people fired from there because they were smuggling drugs in.
And he worked with them. In fact, one gal showed up for work, for her first day, had an ankle bracelet on. Because she's got a DUI and she's a newly hired guard. My son said.
These are the stories, this is the real stuff, so
they're
I
being
think,
underserved, and they're overcrowded, it's dangerous, and they're holding them until 25, but it's not doing them any favors. So there needs to be reform, and these kids will come out no better than when they went in. Probably worse.
okay, well, thanks Scott, and, that's it, I mean, we're gonna enjoy some music here, so we'll change gears, we can mingle here. Can of Clouds. Let's get to the music now. So, Can of Clouds. Chad and Justine for Can of Clouds. And Chad and I go way back. And so it's always a reunion to have Chad and I together. And so I'm so glad that they are appearing tonight. This is the third show that I've had of this, and they're great. And you're gonna love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Can of Clouds. Thanks, Johann. Thanks for setting this up. I didn't even take you down.
Yeah, thanks.
I really like it.
Thank you.
So you can see the dam. James Carroll give him a minute.